For decades, getting a Division I gymnastics scholarship was, well, it was basically a simple but brutal math equation.
Oh, incredibly brutal.
Right. I mean, there were exactly 12 spots, and it was a full ride or absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that was it.
But overnight, the NCAA just completely tore up that math test. Like, if you were navigating college recruiting in 2025 using the old numbers, you're just a little behind.
No, you're playing a game that simply no longer exists.
Exactly.
It is a total paradigm shift. And most families, they're still trying to run plays from a rule book that was literally thrown out the window.
Which is crazy to think about.
It is. They're completely unaware that the entire structural foundation of college sports has shifted right beneath them.
Which is exactly our mission today.
We are going to decode the mechanics of what actually changed, why the NCAA made this drastic pivot, and how this massive shift directly impacts your family's recruiting strategy.
And honestly, the stakes here really cannot be overstated.
No, they can't.
The financial implications for a family navigating this process are just massive right now. And the recruiting timeline is, well, it's incredibly unforgiving.
Yeah, that clock is always ticking. That is why this deep dive is tailored specifically for you, the parents of level 8 through 10 gymnasts.
Because you really need to understand this fundamental shift before that critical June 15th milestone.
Right, because once that date hits, the official coaching conversations begin. And going into those conversations, operating on, outdated assumptions, that is a surefire way to severely limit your athlete's options.
It's the worst thing you can do.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to truly understand the magnitude of this 2025 shift, we first need to look at the absolute rigidity of the old system.
Yeah, the old way of doing things. Right. So what kind of structure were families dealing with before the rules changed?
Well, before 2025, the NCAA classified Division I women's gymnastics as a headcount sport. And that specific terminology, it basically dictated everything.
Headcount sport.
Exactly. Being a headcount sport meant every single program in the country was capped at exactly 12 scholarships.
Wow. Just 12.
Just 12, no exceptions, no wiggle room. But the critical mechanism was this: every single one of those 12 scholarships had to cover everything.
Like 100% everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Full tuition, room and board, all the associated university fees, a full ride.
So a coach couldn't, just look at their budget and decide to get creative.
No, they were legally barred from doing so by NCAA rule.
Wait, really? Legally barred?
Yeah. A coach could not say, I have one scholarship left in my budget, but I have two incredible athletes I want to recruit, so I'll just split the money down the middle and give them each a 50% scholarship.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was that strict.
Oh, offering a partial scholarship under any circumstances was a strict violation. It was a completely binary financial system. 12 athletes received 100% funding, and everyone else received 0.
That is wild. I was trying to visualize this while reading through the source material, and it feels like walking into an ultra-exclusive fixed menu restaurant.
Okay, I like that.
Right. Like the Metrodot tells you that you either buy the massive, expensive 7-course meal for full price, or you just aren't allowed to eat at all.
That's actually a perfect analogy.
There's no ordering a la carte. There's no splitting an appetizer. But if a coach really wanted your athlete, but all 12 of those full ride spots were already spoken for, what actually happened?
The conversation just abruptly ended.
Just like that?
Unless, of course, the athlete was willing and able to walk on.
Okay, let's define the reality of walking on, because it's a term thrown around a lot. But the financial reality is pretty heavy.
It's very heavy. Walking on basically means the athlete does the exact same grueling work as the scholarship athletes.
Right.
They train just as many hours, they compete, they travel, they wear the exact same leotard, but their family is paying the university's full tuition entirely out of pocket.
Ouch. So no help at all?
None. They receive 0 athletic financial aid. So for families who simply couldn't afford a specific university's tuition without help, a coach saying, "We don't have a scholarship available," wasn't an invitation to walk on.
It was basically a rejection.
It was an automatic hard no. The door was just permanently closed.
Man, that all-or-nothing reality really defined the strategy for every family in the country.
Yeah.
You were basically hunting for one of those 12 full ride spots.
Yep, that was the entire game.
But then we hit the catalyst, The big event that forced the NCAA to completely rewrite the rules.
Right, and that catalyst was the House versus NCAA legal settlement in 2025.
Such a massive deal.
Huge. This wasn't just some, minor policy update. It was a massive antitrust lawsuit that fundamentally restructured how money moves in college sports.
Because the athletes wanted a cut.
Exactly. Collegiate athletes essentially fought for and won the right to revenue sharing. But introducing revenue sharing creates a massive financial burden on the athletic departments.
Sure, because now they have to actually pay out.
Right. So to prevent universities from just going bankrupt and to stop the ultra-wealthy programs from simply hoarding hundreds of athletes with unlimited funds, the NCAA had to step in.
What did they do?
They imposed strict, hard roster caps across the board just to control costs.
And for gymnastics, the shockwave of that settlement was immediate. Starting in the 2025-2026 season, Division I women's gymnastics was entirely stripped of its headcount sport status.
Yes, and it transitioned into what's called an equivalency sport.
Which changes everything.
That transition changes the underlying math of recruiting entirely. Under the new equivalency rules, programs are permitted to have up to 20 roster spots.
Okay, up to 20.
But the truly revolutionary change is how the scholarship money is handled. Coaches are no longer forced to give out full rides.
Meaning they can finally order a la carte.
Precisely. They are now allowed to distribute their athletic scholarship budget across those 20 spots however they see fit. A coach might decide to offer 8 full rides to their top performers and divide the rest of their budget into, say, 12 partial scholarships.
Or they could do, what, like 15 partials?
Theoretically, they could offer 15 partials and 0 full rides. It is entirely up to the program's discretion and the specific budget that coach has to work with. What's fascinating here is how this creates a brand new middle lane in the recruiting process.
A little lane.
Yeah. For decades, families were conditioned to believe it was a full ride or nothing. Now, an athlete can actually receive partial athletic funding.
So they can mix and match.
Exactly. A coach might cover tuition while the family covers room and board. Or the coach covers 50% of tuition. It opens up this massive spectrum of financial possibilities that simply were illegal just a few years ago.
Wait, okay, so if I'm understanding this,
Yeah.
if my daughter has straight A's, the school might give her an academic scholarship, right?
Yes.
Can the coach then use less athletic money on her?
You are hitting on the absolute most crucial strategic shift of this entire new era.
Yes.
That is exactly how it works now.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because you are taking that brand new middle lane of partial athletic aid and you are combining it with other types of financial aid.
That's the secret sauce.
So if a coach can only offer your athlete a 40% athletic scholarship, but your athlete also qualifies for a 40% merit-based academic scholarship directly from the university.
And maybe throw in some state-level need-based aid.
Exactly. Suddenly, a school that was completely unaffordable under the old 12 full rides or pay-your-own-way system becomes a highly realistic option.
It changes the entire calculus for a family. I mean, a program that historically only recruited the absolute top elite gymnasts because they only had 12 spots. Well, now they might have room for a wider variety of talent, provided the family can make the partial scholarship math work.
But, okay, I have to push back on this a little bit. Because when you say up to 20 roster spots and flexible scholarships, it kind of sounds like the floodgates have opened. Like there was just money raining down on college gymnastics and every program is suddenly fully funding 20 athletes.
I know it sounds that way.
Is there a catch to this new equivalency system?
Oh, there is a massive catch. It's a vital nuance that families really must understand so they don't set false expectations. Just because the NCAA now allows a program to have up to 20 roster spots does not mean the university's athletic department actually handed the gymnastics coach the budget to fully fund 20 spots.
Right, because the athletic department's overall budget didn't magically double in 2025.
Not at all. Each school decides its own internal financial allocations. And looking at the reality of college athletics, I mean, the lion's share of athletic budgets still flows heavily toward the massive revenue generators.
Like football and basketball.
Exactly. The total amount of money sitting in the gymnastics coach's bank account likely stayed exactly the same as it was pre-2025. What changed is simply their legal flexibility and how they are allowed to spend it.
So the athletic department hasn't given the coach a bigger checkbook. They've just given them a 20-person roster cap.
Correct.
That must create an absolute strategic nightmare for coaches trying to figure out who gets what percentage of a finite pool of cash.
It really forces coaches to become financial puzzle masters, and that leads to the most brutal hidden consequence of this new era,
What's that?
that 20-spot limit. It is a hard ceiling. It is an absolute non-negotiable cap on the roster size, mandated by the settlement to control those costs we talked about earlier.
Which fundamentally alters the reality for walk-ons.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
you can see how the new system creates an incredible squeeze at the bottom of the roster.
Squeeze how?
Well, before 2025, coaches would have their 12 full-ride scholarship athletes, and then they could essentially welcome as many talented, hardworking walk-ons as they have locker room space for.
Wow. Yeah.
It wasn't uncommon to see college rosters of 22, 24, even 26 athletes. Now, 20 is the absolute legal maximum.
Wow. So if a coach fills their 20 spots with athletes receiving some form of partial athletic aid,
Then the roster is fully locked. An athlete who might have easily secured a walk-on spot under the old rules, who would have been absolutely thrilled just to wear the university leotard and compete for free, often cannot even make the roster today.
that is heartbreaking.
It is. The 20-person cap makes the walk-on route an extreme bottleneck. There is significantly more flexibility and opportunity at the top and middle of the roster, but it is drastically tighter at the bottom.
That is a very harsh reality check. Like the old assumptions about just walking on if you don't get a scholarship will lead a family straight into a brick wall.
A total dead end.
So let's pivot to strategy. Now that we understand the mechanics of this equivalency era, the flexible money, the power of building an aid picture, and the harsh reality of the 20-person cap, what specific actionable steps should families be taking?
Right, let's get into what you actually do.
The Mat2 Metal sources lay out a very clear three-step game plan. Step one is about communication. So when and how do you actually ask a coach about the money?
The guidance here is highly specific. You must ask coaches how their specific aid is structured because every single program handles their budget differently now.
Right.
However, timing is everything. You do not ask this in your very first introductory email. When you are reaching out through digital recruiting portals like NCAA, which, are the platforms athletes use to send their initial highlight videos and academic stats, that first touch point is purely about establishing athletic interest.
You're just trying to see if they even like your gymnastics.
Exactly. Don't lead with the money.
But once a genuine back-and-forth conversation actually begins with a coach, bringing up the financial picture isn't taboo anymore.
No, it's expected. Coaches are dealing with this new financial puzzle too. They know exactly how much budget they have, they know how they're dividing it up, and they need to know if their partial scholarship structure is going to realistically work for your family's financial situation.
It's just business.
Right. It is a necessary, practical business conversation that happens much earlier in the relationship now.
That makes total sense. It saves everyone time.
Mm.
So step two of the game plan is something that puts a tremendous amount of power back into the athlete's hands outside of the gym.
Yes, the academic side.
It is the power of stacking. We touched on this when we talked about building the aid picture, but the grades matter more now than they ever have in the history of the sport.
Without a doubt. Think about the coach's perspective. They have a rigidly limited pool of athletic money to spend across up to 20 athletes.
Yep.
So they are actively hunting for athletes who can access financial aid from outside the athletic department to help offset the cost. If your athlete has a 3.8 GPA and is taking advanced AP coursework, well, that academic profile makes them highly competitive for university merit aid.
And that university merit aid stacks directly on top of whatever partial athletic scholarship the coach can offer.
It absolutely does.
So an athlete with stellar grades is literally cheaper for a gymnastics coach to recruit than an athlete with a 3.0 GPA, simply because the academic money covers the financial gap.
Exactly. Stacking isn't just a neat trick, it is a core recruiting strategy. Coaches factor an athlete's academic profile heavily into their recruiting boards now because a high GPA athlete stretches the coach's limited athletic budget significantly further.
It's empowering to know that hours spent studying actually translate to direct recruiting leverage.
It pays off, literally.
Which brings us to the third step of the game plan, broaden the list.
Yes, under the old system, families naturally applied a very narrow filter to their college search. They would survey the landscape and try to identify only the specific programs they thought were well-funded enough to hand out one of those rare 12 full rides.
Which artificially restricted their options to just a handful of schools.
Exactly.
But today, with 20 flexible roster spots and the ability to stack partial athletic aid with academic money, the entire board is in play. The sources emphasize that parents must actively research and reach out to a much wider variety of programs.
You really have to cast a wider net.
Right. You shouldn't just be looking at the massive SEC gymnastics powerhouses. You need to broaden the scope to include Ivy League programs, Big Ten programs, Pac-12 programs. Because of partial scholarships, far more programs can realistically offer something to help fund your athlete's education.
And you simply cannot know how any individual program is structuring their 20 spots until you actually get into those conversations. A school that a family might have previously written off as entirely too expensive without a full ride might actually have a brilliant system for stacking partial athletic scholarships with state grants and merit aid, making it completely affordable.
The Mat 2 Metals script actually provides a really illuminating case study on this exact point.
Oh, the Smith family.
Yes. It focuses on a mother, Sally Smith, and her daughter, who is an athlete named Ava Smith. And their journey perfectly illustrates why grasping this concept changes everything.
It really does.
According to the script, Sally initially built Ava's target school list using those old, pre-2025 assumptions. She was strictly filtering for programs that could offer one of those 12 full rides.
Sally was trying to navigate the system while learning about this equivalency shift in real time, very much like the parents listening to this deep dive right now.
But the breakthrough happened when Sally finally understood this new math. Once she grasped how partial scholarships worked, how Ava's grades could stack with athletic aid, and how the 20-spot cap changed roster building, Ava's target list changed completely.
A total 180.
Programs they hadn't even seriously considered before, schools they thought were financially out of reach, suddenly became real conversations.
Because the underlying math changed, their entire strategy changed.
So what does this all mean? It means that understanding this fundamental shift before those June 15th coaching conversations begin is the ultimate competitive advantage for your athlete.
You have to know the rules before you start playing.
Exactly. You will be walking into those conversations equipped to discuss aid pictures and stacking, while other families are still, asking about non-existent full rides.
You will be speaking the exact same language as the coaches. You will understand the budgetary constraints they are operating under, and you will know exactly how to position your athlete, both academically and athletically, as a highly valuable solution to their roster puzzle.
So with this three-step blueprint laid out, understanding the aid picture, stacking academics, and broadening your list, where do you go to actually execute this? Where are the tools to put this into practice?
You need the right resources.
Yes, and the sources point directly to mat2metals.com. Let me say that smoothly so you can jot it down. mat2metals.com. Go there.
Definitely go there.
First of all, they have a fantastic free resource you should grab immediately. It's the deductions cheat sheet. It comprehensively covers all 4 events, specifically for levels 8 through 10. It is an invaluable resource to have printed out right in your gym bag.
And the free deep dives, much like the one we are doing today, are excellent for understanding the massive high-level rule changes, but actually executing the strategy we just discussed requires a much deeper level of tactical detail.
Which is exactly where the Founders Pass comes in. Right now on mat2metals.com, purchasing the Founders Pass gives you full, unrestricted access to their entire paid deep dive library all the way through the end of 2026.
And it's a great deal right now. The distinction between the free and paid content is important for families to understand. Today, we thoroughly covered the what and the why of the new NCAA equivalency rules.
The big picture.
Exactly. The paid series covers the actual execution. It provides the specific templates for the emails you need to send to coaches. It details the exact marketing materials you need to prepare, how to strategically refine that broadened school list, and how to design the flyer and the folder you hand out at meets.
It even covers camps, right?
Yes. It goes deep into summer camp strategy and how to navigate the final commitment conversation. It is a comprehensive step-by-step system.
It essentially takes all the guesswork out of an inherently stressful process. Mat 2 Metals was built by parents who actually lived this exact experience, who navigated these massive NCAA changes firsthand, and who want to share that successful blueprint with you.
Which is huge.
We highly recommend checking out the Founders Pass at mat2metals.com. If understanding these equivalency rules has changed how you are viewing your athlete's recruiting journey, it really is an investment in giving your gymnast the best possible shot at the next level.
The game has fundamentally changed, and the families who adapt their strategy first are the ones who will ultimately succeed.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We know navigating NCAA bylaws and scholarship structures is a dense topic, but understanding the rules of the game is deeply empowering. Go get your athlete seen.
And as we wrap up, let's circle back to that image of the restaurant. Under the old system, every single athlete on scholarship was eating the exact same meal.
Right.
Now we have a roster of 20 athletes, but their financial packages are all completely different. One athlete might be on a full ride, while the teammate standing right next to her is piecing together a 30% partial scholarship and academic aid.
Which is a very different vibe.
This raises an important question with a 20-person hard cap and vastly varying levels of financial support across a single team. How will this new financial hierarchy affect the internal culture, the locker room dynamics, and the peer-to-peer relationships of a college gymnastics roster compared to the old days where everyone was funded equally?
Oh, that's going to be interesting to watch unfold.
It is a complex psychological shift that every family and every coach is going to have to navigate moving forward.
A completely new set of unwritten rules to learn for a whole new era. Keep your map handy because the recruiting roads are definitely still changing. See you next time.